Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I am the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as other things. And today's episode, the focus is going to be on RV loans and financing. I have some really cool updates, but I also am going to throw a little curveball that's beneficial to a lot of you that are going through this frame flex or frame failure problem with Grand Design or other manufacturers. It's going to be cool. So let's start with RV loans, RV financing, okay? So first off, I want to make an announcement that there was an updated call sheet sent out to me from one of the lenders saying that they are going to extend a program to folks that have, let's say, 620 credit to 699 credit and give them the option on some of these loans around 30 grand or more, a 216-month option at their same interest rate that they have at 15-year. Now, this can be very ugly, and this can be very good. Now, I think it's going to be more on the good side than the ugly side, and let me explain why. First off, let's talk about the real thing, the ugly side. The ugly side of financing an RV when your credit score starts with a 6 is you are considered bad credit. You are considered subprime. Now, over my career, when I was a finance manager, and even till today, I still get the majority of the loans set up at the dealership. There are fair credit people. It's a gray area of the industry that there is no bank for. We usually use some sort of credit union or some kind of lender like I'm talking about that does these oddball type of terms and interest rates. So for example, I have a credit union that'll do a 640 score at 13 or 14% interest, but only give them a 10-year loan. This same program I'm talking about will still do that, let's say 13 to 15% interest rate, but do it on a 216-month term. Okay? So the ugly part about it is that if you actually look at how much interest you're going to pay over 216 months, you go cross-eyed and probably get up and go, to hell with this crap. But I would argue with you, you signed up for your mortgage even though you knew you're going to pay triple what you're buying the house for. Well, almost triple. No, that's sarcasm. That's a little exaggerated, I should say. But you get the idea. You buy your house for $700 grand, but by the time you make all the payments, you're paying almost $2 million. So you do it on a house, but hard to do it on a car or RV? Just saying. Okay, moving on. And by the way, I have a comment on that. So make sure you go later on because I got something that may interest you on what I just said. So don't leave your nasty comment yet. Wait till later after I explain myself on that, okay? First off, the good part of this whole thing is that it'll make payments more affordable for those folks I consider to be fair credit. Meaning your score might be low, but you're on time with your payments. Your score may be low, but maybe you have excellent car credit. You have very little bills. You have very little credit card debt, but maybe you have medical collections. Okay? It's beneficial to help lower the payments on a lot of these, we'll call them travel trailers and fifth wheels, a lot of these towables. Okay? So I think over the long term, it's going to be something good. In the short term, it looks really bad. Now, the reason why I say the long term it looks good is because for you folks that are, let's say, 640, 660, in 2 years, if you pay down your debt, you pay on this loan, it'll boost your credit high enough where you can go and refinance it with a credit union at a lot better interest rate and a shorter term, which over the course of the loan is going to save you money. By the way, this is the same recommendation I give people with great credit. I just had somebody that subscribed to the main channel come in, buy a fifth wheel toy hauler from me, and I told him, plain and simple, yes, we got you a 7.99 rate, which is really good, especially for the conditions we're in. However, in 2 years, I want you to refinance it through one of the credit unions when rates drop. Because with RVs, guys, rates are not going to drop till at least 2026. Minimum. Unless there's like some kind of Armageddon level event, like aka COVID version 2, we are at a point where RVs were the first to get jacked up and the last to go down. Because they're toys. They're not a need. They are a want. But what is interesting is the RV loan interest rates and mortgage interest rates are pretty similar. Not too far off. RVs are still a little higher than mortgages, but woo, doggy. I just looked at the mortgage rate this morning and about threw up. Okay. Moving on. So that all being said, there's going to be a sect of you that yell and scream at me in the comment section, just pay cash. And by the way, this is my sarcastic honey badger voice. Just pay cash. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. If you can't write a check, don't buy it. Okay, so I understand that philosophy. I 5,000% completely disagree with you. Okay? And if and when I go be a full-time YouTuber, if that ever happens, and I hit the road and do shows, and I no longer am affiliated with a dealership, I'm going to tell you the same thing. For the rest of my life, I'm going to tell you, never pay cash for an RV unless you have to. And I'm going to use Grand Design Solitude and Grand Design Momentum as the example, especially with all the allegations against them. Okay? So let's say you saved $150,000 and you went and bought your dream Solitude front living room, full body paint, fully packaged unit. And you wrote a check for it. And now with the allegations of frame flex and frame failure on Solitude and Momentum with Grand Design, what do you think it did to your resale value of your fifth wheel? Like, remember the movie Hook when they were doing the food fight thing? So you might as well, in this scenario, taking, let's say, $100,000 of it, $70,000 of it in 3 years, threw it in a trash can, and lit it on fire. Dave Ramsey is not the best person to talk to when it comes to finances. Okay? If everybody only paid cash for vehicles of any kind, boats, cars, trucks, RVs, there would be no industry. That's a fact of life. Because our country and our financial system has hated cash since 1973. Our cash means nothing. I can't do it on camera because I'll get in trouble. Where is it? Okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm pulling out a dollar bill. See this dollar bill right here? It's worth nothing. It's a piece of paper. That's all it is. This is debt. Okay? There's a great person to listen to. Eventually, this is worthless. Okay. Let's say, heaven forbid, Russia sends an EMP down and takes out our entire electrical grid. Now, let's be really sarcastic and say, let's say the Walking Dead event happens. We have a zombie apocalypse. This dollar bill doesn't mean fucking shit. It's not worth the print or the paper it's printed on. Gold means nothing. Silver means nothing. It is worthless. In a extinction or Armageddon level event, your money means jack shit. Your assets mean something. So folks that have debt because they went and didn't buy an RV because they didn't have, you don't have cash, don't buy it. The people that went out and took loans on everything, cars, RVs, boats, etc., they're going to have the means of shelter, vehicle to drive, boat to go and help do the fishing. Assets and materials are going to mean something in that kind of event. So when people tell me that cash is king, cash is trash. As soon as I get it, I get rid of it. I put it into assets that bring me money. In fact, every ad revenue I get off this channel and off the podcast goes right back into the podcast. Goes right back into the channel. I don't keep any of it. It means nothing to me. If I had $1 million cash in the bank account, I go find something to put it in that's going to bring me more income. That's what cash is for. That's the only thing cash is good for. I'm not a financial expert. Never have been. Never went to school for it. I learned it from a man that was a lot smarter than me, and that was my grandfather. My grandfather was not liquid. My grandfather had income coming out of his ears, bleeding out of his fucking nose, man. I mean, the guy just was a genius and ahead of his time. He had like $35,000, $40,000 a month coming into his bank account from all his assets. There was a point in time where he was told by his money manager that was helping him out, his kind of tax guy / financial advisor, told him, stop putting it places. There's going to come a point where you got no more places to put it, so go spend the money something else. So he went and took trips across Europe and freaking visited like 37 countries in 5 years. And then when he went to go buy a Mercedes, he had the money to buy it. And he's like, nah, here's a $10,000 check down and finance the rest. Do it over a 7-year loan. Whatever let's see, rate. Yep, rate looks good. Yep, payment looks good. Okay. Then he calls this guy that helps him pay all his bills and goes, okay, here's the monthly payment I need to make on that Mercedes every month. Sets it up, done. Doesn't even look at... One thing that always irritated me about my grandfather is he didn't give a flying fuck what the interest rate was. Never did. I remember one time his interest rate on his motorhome was like 6%. And I'm like, Grandpa, you could probably get 5.5%. My grandfather goes, dude, when I bought my first travel trailer, it was 24%. Who cares what the rate's going to be? As long as the payment's reasonable, and as long as I can keep the majority of my cash and have it keep working for me, I'm good. I went, are you kidding me? Because I was taught my whole life. The same thing Dave Ramsey preaches. Don't buy it unless you can afford it in cash. AKA, here's what Mr. Ramsey wants. Mr. Ramsey's talking. His inner voice is, keep buying my books. Keep buying my courses. Stay broke, my friends. Kind of like the guy from Dos Equis, right? The Dos Equis guy's the most interesting man in the world. I may not always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. Dave Ramsey, you can only buy things in cash that you can afford because I want you to stay broke, my friends. And you may disagree with me. It's okay to disagree with me because that's a part of life. But in this scenario, because I got way off track, in this freaking scenario, if you financed the RV, you have a lot more options with a Grand Design. If you have Grand Design frame failure or frame flex or anything like that, any of the allegations against Grand Design, if you financed a portion of it, you have options. You can voluntarily repossess the vehicle. Now that's worst case scenario. You can go through lemon law channels. I just told 2 people today on a phone call that they should look into lemon law. That means your cash is not tied up hoping that a legal dispute comes on your side. So let's say 150 grand unit, you put 30 grand down, got yourself a reasonable payment that works for you and your wife or your spouse or your family members. And then if this shit went down like it's been going down and you can't lemon law it and you can't do anything about it, adios. Let it go. I'll rebuild my credit later. But I got my cash still. That's working for me on rental properties and income. I got 120 grand. They didn't get it all. I got 120 grand. I only lost the 30,000 down payment and whatever payments I've made. But I didn't lose the heart. I didn't lose this thing that's working for me to make me income. Just saying. Let's look at the more common scenario. The most common scenario when you pay cash for an RV. Let's say you buy a used diesel pusher. This was the most common thing I used to go through. You bought a used diesel pusher because you only had $100,000 cash and that's all you're going to spend. Have you seen what 100 grand buys you? I'm going to tell you something that is probably going to lose me listeners and lose me viewers. If you only saved $100,000 to buy an RV, you better have at least 70 grand extra for all the fix-its you're going to have to do to that used diesel pusher. Not a popular opinion, but I've seen this a lot happen. I've seen folks go buy a used diesel pusher because pound the chest, gotta have the diesel, can't go gas. They buy an older one that supposedly has a bigger motor and all this stuff to it, and I got a smoking deal because I paid cash, 100 G's, and I got a $500,000 motorhome that was brand new for 100 grand. Great. Do you have $75,000, $80,000 to repair it if there's anything major that goes on? No. The majority of you don't even have enough money to travel in it. I've seen this a ton in my career. In 15 years, I've seen a ton of egocentric people that save up X amount of dollars. Reminds me a lot of Al Bundy when Al Bundy went to go buy the Corvette that had the stick shift and had $6,000 in a shoebox. Does everybody remember that episode? This is where I do agree with Dave Ramsey. You got to stay in your lane if you're only a cash buyer. You got 100 grand saved, buy a $50,000 coach. You got $50,000 saved, buy a $25,000 coach. If you got to pay cash, only spend half of what you saved because you're going to have to buy something used and you're inheriting somebody else's problems. Especially when you're buying a 10, 15, 20-year-old coach. Had a guy in here today that had bought a 1988 Comfort motorhome for $1,000 and he doesn't have the money to fix it. Oh, I got such a smoking deal. You know, they went for $75,000 brand new and I got it for $500. And then he actually brought it to me today and we were talking about it. And we tried starting the generator. Generator's toast. Needs a complete rebuild. Oh, by the way, the generator company no longer is in business. So you got to replace the generator with something more updated. That's $5 or $6 just in the parts and the kit to redo it. Refrigerator's dead. Doesn't work. It's a really old school propane only fridge. That's $2,500. By the time we added up everything, it needed about $17,000, $18,000 worth of parts. He was going to do it all himself. Do you have the money? Of course he doesn't. Is there something wrong with that? No, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm trying to put in your mind something to help you guys out. So when you're out there looking, you second guess yourself when you're going to go write a check for something that could instantaneously be worth dog shit. I've watched it too many times where private party sellers burn customers worse than dealers ever did. I'm having it done right now where people bringing me their trade-ins are burning me in my dealership. I've halted Grand Design, Solitude, and Momentums for trade-in, purchase, or consignment. Don't even bring them to me. With all the allegations of frame flex, don't even bring them to me. I had a guy walk in the other day. I probably said this on the last episode. I looked at the book because I printed the book. The book on the Solitude was $72,000. I offered him $5,000. He goes, "Excuse me?" And I go, "Brother, that's how much I don't want your fifth wheel anywhere near my lot. I'll give you $5,000 for it cash right now, and I'm gonna turn around, send it to the auction at $5,000, and let everybody bid war over it. I'm not gonna deal with it. I don't want anywhere near my lot. I don't want to be associated with anything, with all the allegations and the way Grand Design has treated people allegedly. I don't want anything to do with Solitude or Momentum." Now imagine, transcend, hey, you know what? There isn't any problem with the travel trailers, at least not ones on the level that we're having with the damn fifth wheels. No big deal. But the fifth wheels and all the allegations, no way, Jose. Period. So here's my suggestion to everybody that's having this frame failure, frame flex, okay? I was talking to two of the guys. I talked to two guys today. They're pretty cool guys. I gotta say, I gotta say, every one of you I've talked to over the phone, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm really appreciative of all the respect. And I'm appreciative about you guys understanding that I cuss like a sailor. So let me give you something, okay? So real quick before I get into this, all right? So there's two people, all right? One is a gentleman. He's a nice as hell guy. I've seen a lot of his videos. Very informative guy. He hates my guts. He thinks I'm just this out of control clout chaser, okay? And I understand it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I will never bash anybody or tell everybody they're full of crap because they don't like me. I mean, I'm not everybody's champion in this, okay? Not everybody can handle my directness, okay, in this whole thing. But then I got told by another guy that his wife couldn't stand me at first. And now everything's kind of turned on its head like, oh, wait a minute, he ain't that bad. Well, I'm not a bad guy. I just, like I said, foul-mouthed as hell. But anyway, getting to it, I would recommend to everybody the place you bought it in, the state you bought your Grand Design fifth wheel that allegedly is having frame failure, that allegedly Grand Design is unwilling to take care of or is not taken care of properly. Go to the state you bought it in and hire a lemon law attorney. Begin the lemon law process. Okay? Forget the federal government. The federal government ain't gonna do shit. Not right now. But here's a way we can. Think about this. Let's say there's 500 of you, as an example. And 500 of you file lemon law complaints in the state you bought it in. It can't be the state you live in. It has to be the state you bought it in. So if you're one of those unfortunate folks that drove to Indiana or drove to Ohio to buy yours because it was cheaper, you're probably shit out of luck. But as far as if you bought it in California, Nevada, Colorado, parts of Florida, anywhere except Texas, Montana, Ohio, and Indiana that I'm aware of, start the lemon law process. Because if 500 of you did it, that would send a signal to the federal government. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but when you begin a lemon law process, that VIN number is registered and moved into the state documents and then is sent from the state level safety and transportation chain up to the federal. It's the same thing happens in cars. Okay, that's how the database can tell whether a car or a vehicle has been salvaged or what's the other one called? Totaled. It's through a database that the states use and the federal government use. So let's say you lemon law your Grand Design Solitude because allegedly it has all these problems and allegedly Grand Design doesn't want to deal with it. Perfect. If you start that process, you might have a shot at getting out of it. And then B, that will do more damage than constantly going to NHTSA or whatever that thing is. That's reality. How many emails a day do you think they get from people? On all kinds of vehicles, on all kinds of issues. Just imagine. But when it gets escalated at the state level, that's where you should start. I got that advice from a guy that's been in the vehicle legal business for a while. He was telling me about it. He said, these people should start at the state level and then let it escalate from there. Because once it escalates from a state to a federal level, they take it a lot more seriously than if it goes customer straight to federal. Like, yeah, whatever. We've been getting those kind of complaints for like 30 years. They don't even look at it. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, next. I mean, that's how it feels. I don't know if that's reality or not, but that's how it feels. So, anyway, until next time, remember toolkit and sense of humor.